Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good evening, welcome to the Locker Room. This is the Friday edition of the Locker Room on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. We're here to play you the football news, but also it's not only football this weekend, Graham, it's snooker and the Grand National as well. So it's a busy wee show coming up. Just as well, we've got 2 hours to speak about it until 7 o'clock. And hopefully about 5:30 or so, I think, we'll be joined by Mr. MBE himself, Mr. Regan Skavens. By the way, he's not got an MBE. I guess that would be nice. It's been a quiet week in the old Scottish football front, Graham. Because the last time we were here, well, I've not been on. Oh no, what am I saying? I was on last Friday. I forgot that we weren't on last Sunday. I forgot about that. But Robbie Neilson got sacked. Celtic won their Glasgow derby. Most people think the league is over. I think it is now. And also, Graham is still here with me on the show. So that's nice to see you, Graham.
Yeah, it's as you say, it's been a very quiet week this week. So I don't know what we're going to talk about for the next 2 hours.
Yeah,
Can't
exactly.
What we can talk about.
No, I think we might speak about, I don't know, the cost of living crisis. No, let's leave that for another show and maybe next season, because it might still be about by then. Get your comments in already on YouTube and Facebook Live, and you can comment. Don't forget, I heard you putting a call out the other week, Graham. So if you are a fan of any other club in the top flight, or maybe the championship, and you want to get involved, just give us a wee tweet at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter, and you can join myself and Graham. And you never know, you might talk more sense than me and Mr. Duffy put together. Well, Graham, anyway. So join the conversation, or else leave a comment on the YouTube, the comment section, and we'll get back to you after the show. So, Graham, how's it going?
Not too bad. It's been a busy week at work. I've only been in 4 days because it was the last week. But it's been very busy, very eventful, and it's nice to have a bit of a break. Although I always tend to get a bit nervous for a derby weekend. I'm not going to lie, I'm the same for tomorrow. But it's been busy. But I'm glad to be on again tonight. And as you've mentioned, hopefully we'll be joined by Regan for 2 weeks in a row, which will be the first time in a long time he's joined us for 2 weeks.
And before, because when I saw the games this weekend, right, I was actually getting excited there for a minute. I was like, the Edinburgh derbies on the TV, stuff like that, right? But I wasn't 100% sure. And then I came on and I asked Graham, and he bust my bubble, and he says, no, it's not on Sky, it's on the Fire Stick. And I'm a wee bit disappointed with that, Graham. I know about Edinburgh derby, and it's not on the TV.
I know it's not the first time it's happened either. It's been a few times it's not been on. But as I said to you before, I think if Hibs make the top 6, pray they don't, then I'd imagine that it probably will be the Edinburgh derby on after the split. But yeah, it's disappointing. Thankfully, I've got a way that I can watch it. But it's disappointing that it's not going to be on normal TV. Although I've actually seen, and whether we're talking about this or not, I have seen during the week as well that there is plans in place for games to now be shown in Scotland, like maybe on one of the Scottish channels, which is about time, to be honest, because I'm getting sick of watching like England games on STV, where you've got a Scottish channel that they can't watch games on. So yeah, hopefully that will happen. But again, they said that could be a few years, so we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think it was Wednesday, Graham, that they had to meet with all the TV channels and somebody from SFA, so we'll have to wait and see. But you're saying that after the split of Hibs make the top six, but in the way to look at and you might enjoy the game because obviously you're a Hearts fan as well. But I mean, if they get in the top six, like both of them get us in the top six, the game could mean nothing. I know that you want to get one up in your rivals and all that, but you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to play for. Whereas tomorrow there's something to play for that top six.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, every derby means something. It's pride. You know, you want to win the derby game. So yeah, well, it might not mean much points wise, potentially. Hopefully it does. There is always that thing that you want to win the derby games. You know, I've never had a derby game that means nothing. It means a lot to the fans. It means a lot, or hopefully it means a lot to the players. It certainly used to. But yeah, I mean, tomorrow is a massive, massive game. There's no doubt about that. Hearts on a really poor run. New manager in charge. Hibs on a really poor run as well, having lost on United last week. So there's a lot at stake. And I mean, looking at the league table they're on, Livingston, who had a really bad run, Motherwell could both still make the top six. So it's a massive game for both Hearts and Hibs tomorrow. It's Easter Roads. Hibs have a decent record there. I know they lost their last home game against Motherwell, but it's a difficult game to call tomorrow. And I know we'll get on to Robbie Neilson in a minute, but yeah, it's such a... I mean, derby games are so hard to predict because form goes out the window. You know, we don't have any form. Hibs don't have, so the potential for this game to be one of the worst derbies ever is absolutely there.
Yeah, so we'll come back to speak about the Hearts and Hibs game in a wee minute or two. But let's go, as usual, Graham, on the show, over to the Championships. And I can't believe there's 2 Scottish games on tonight on the telly. Wow, what's happened here? A game on Sky, we'll get to Aberdeen, Ross County in a minute. I don't know what the nightlife is like up in Dingwall. Never been. Have you been to Dingwall, Graham? No?
I have, but not for a long time. And it was basically just to see the game and then headed back down the road. So I've not been out on a night out in Dingwall. I'm sure it's very pleasant. I know that we do have a Ross County fan, ironically, Ross.
Yeah.
He's not on tonight. He's probably going to be at the game, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, it certainly sounds nice. Inverness is really nice. Been there a couple of times, but I've never been to Dingwall.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's a usual joke where if you have a few whiskies or in my case, a few cokes up in Ross County, you fall over the wall. But that's a bit, skewed. Anyway,
you know what? I must be one of the very few Scottish folk that does actually like whiskey, and there's a reason for that. Because quite a few years ago now, when I was probably about 19, 20, me and my mother, randomly, I don't know why we did this, but we had a Sainsbury's near to us, and they had a whiskey tasting thing for like Burns Supper. Now, given the fact I was working the next day, I think I had about 5 or 6 whiskies, and I have never been so ill in my life. So I've never drank whiskey since then.
So that's the end of the locker room tonight. Next up on Indie Live Radio, we're going to have the Whiskey Show presented by Graham Duffy, Over the Wall, live in Ross County. Yeah, so sorry about that. Couple of wee Dingo is a good night out. Mad Highlands. There you go. So it's a nice night out.
I see our pal. Yeah, our pal Azalino's on. Good evening, gentlemen. And I have to say as well, apologies to anyone for last week. We didn't do the Sunday show, not because I was on a huff, but I had family commitments last week for Easter. Michael couldn't do the show either. So it wasn't because I didn't want to do the show because Azalino's going to be a good mood. It was generally family commitments, but we'll get on to St Mirren shortly. But I will say right now as well, St Mirren thoroughly deserved to win that game last week. I know we'll get on to Hearts shortly, but St Mirren were excellent value last week, could even on more. So fair play to Azalino and St Mirren. Every chance that they could still finish 3rd or 4th. But so again, apologies to anyone that wasn't there, that we weren't there last week. says I wasn't planning to gloat. To be fair, I would have been.
Now, because they weren't on last week, Glenn, right, it's going to give me a good excuse to come up with some Easter jokes that you're yoking and cracking up and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'll put in some more Easter jokes throughout the show. Yeah, of course, I'm joking there, actually. Sorry about that, Glenn. It just comes naturally, mate. It's fine. So don't worry, I'm cracking up. I live in Hill, by the way. So and all that. Let's get back to football, whiskey, and Easter jokes. Come on. Let's get back to football. 2 games tonight, as I said, Ross County against Aberdeen. But first up, let's speak about the championship, Graham. Queen's Park, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, they were favourites to win the league. Now, it's a funny old game that they've got beaten, 2 games, and now they're up against the bottom of the table, Hamilton Accies tonight.
Well, it's actually 4 games in a row that they haven't won, which they've just fallen off a cliff. I mean, I don't know what's happened to them. Their form is completely flatlined. Now, again, I've mentioned numerous times in the show that I really want Queen's Park to come up. Now, it looks a bit like they've run out of steam. Now, listen, there's still about 6 games to go. They are at home today, which is Oakville View for them at the moment. But the way they've just fallen apart is unbelievable. I don't know what's happened to them. They have to try and get back on track tonight against the Hamilton side, who I thought last week would beat Cove Rangers because Cove were very poor. They drew 1-1. So Hamilton have been very patchy. They've had a kind of up and down season. Some weeks they played really well. Some weeks they've not been that great. Last week they were maybe not that great, but Queen's Park have just completely fallen apart. Dundee now are top of the league. I now have to say that I think Dundee are probably going to be favourites to win the championship now. But again, what I'm kind of hoping are neutral. The last game of the season is Queen's Park against Dundee. I would like that to be the kind of championship decider. I don't want it to be decided before that, but the way it's going just now, I think it might be. I just think Queen's Park have just fallen completely apart just now. I know that probably one of the biggest things in Queen's Park was the fact that they did lose Simon Murray to Ross County, like during the season. That was a massive blow. But they just can't seem to get any form together. I think today, now I said this last time it was a Friday night game, I said they'll beat Arbroath, and they didn't. I think they will beat Hamilton tonight. I think it'll be tough. I think it'll be tight. I think Hamilton will be very compact. Queen's Park have got to start getting wins together again. And I think they will get one tonight. But I just don't know what's happened to Owen Coyle's side. They've just completely fallen apart at the wrong time in the season.
Yeah, their wheels just came off a wee bit, Graham, as well. And they played against Packet Thistle. And there you go, Graham, another massive game tomorrow. Packet Thistle against Ayr United. That's got to be a cracker, that game.
I mean, this is what I've said numerous times, that I actually quite like the championship. I hate being in it when I was a Heart supporter, but it's a really competitive league, and I think every game at the moment means something. You know, at the bottom of the table, top of the table, every game means something. So yeah, that's going to be a massive game. Partick Thistle, you can't write them off. They could still easily win the championship again. So it's just so tight. I kind of think right now, though, I do think Dundee look like they are going to be the favourites at the moment. You know, they've kind of picked up a little bit. They have Morton tomorrow. Tough game, but being at Dens Park, you'd expect them to win that game. Raith Rovers play Arbroath. There's still something to play for there. Arbroath have kind of picked up a little bit. And I've said numerous times, I really like Dick Campbell. I really want them to stay up. They've picked up a little bit. Cove and Inverness, again, every game means something. But tonight, if Queen's Park can win tonight, go back joint top, then it puts pressure on Dundee tomorrow. But it's just such a tight league. But I think, as Scott mentioned, Spiders need to win tonight or it's playoffs. Yeah, tonight's huge. Hopefully, they'll get a decent turnout at Oakville View tonight. Hopefully, the Queen's Park fans will get behind them. They need that support. But whatever happens, it can't be underestimated how well Queen's Park have done this season. I don't really think anyone expects them to maybe come up. But if they can make the playoffs, which I think they will, they've still got a very good chance. And that's probably what Owen Coyle's got to drive into his team. If you can still get in the playoffs, you've still got a chance. But it's important they win tonight. They've got to get back to winning ways. But like I said, John Rankin's Hamilton have been up and down tonight. I don't expect them to win. But I said that a few weeks ago when Arbroath went to Queen's Park and they won. So I just don't know what's going to happen tonight. I do think Queen's Park will win, but it might be like maybe 1-0, 2-1. I think it'll be very tight, but they have to start winning again.
Yeah, I mean, do you know, sorry, Queen's Park fans, that I don't mean this, but if they don't make it this season, it'll be a big letdown, especially because they're doing up Lesser Hampden as well. But I mean, it would be nice to see when it's finished. But do you not classify Queen's Park in the same bracket as Arbroath last season, because Arbroath was like the outsiders, part time, maybe had less money than Queen's Park, right enough, because Queen's Park's got a lot of money pumped into them. Do you not just feel it's going to have that kind of feeling about it as again? Whereas everybody wanted Arbroath to do well, everybody wants to do Queen's Park well as well.
Maybe, but I think Queen's Park have got enough about them that if they don't come up this season, I don't think they'll do a Queen's Park and Arbroath. I think they'll go again next season. Listen, I don't know what their budget's going to be like for the Championship. You know, there's no doubt that Willie Hawkin that have put a lot of money in there to get them promoted. I think they'll go again next season. I think they'll try and sign quality that they can for the Championship. And let's be honest, it's very hard to sign quality for that league. You know, teams look at Queen's Park and think, is that an attractive proposition? I think for some folk it would be. I think they've done some really good things there. As I said, they're doing up Lesser Hampden, which should be really good. But I think it maybe, if they don't come up this season, I've got no doubt they'll be up again there next season. I just think for Arbroath were a part-time team. It was going to be so hard for them to repeat that next season. And they struggled this season. They've had a lot of injuries. I think Queen's Park will be fine next season. I think they'll do exactly the same thing again. But I still want them to come up. I still think it'll be great. And like I said last week and the week before that, I've heard a couple of pundits now, I won't mention their names, who said that they think it'll be an embarrassment if Queen's Park come up. I've never agreed with that. If you come up, you deserve it. Now, I know that Grenna came up through the ranks and they had a decent first season. They finished third, got into Europe, and then they just plummeted. But that was mainly due to the fact that Brooks Mileson took not well and unfortunately passed away. And that was them done. That's not going to happen with Queen's Park. Queen's Park are set up really well. They do have the financial backing, and I think they'll do fine next season. But I want to come up. I've said numerous times again, and I'll repeat it. I keep repeating myself on this, but there's not much for me between the top end of the Championship and the bottom of the Premier League. So if Queen's Park were to come up, I don't think they'll get relegated. I think they'll stay up. I really do. I really do believe that. I've said that numerous times. I think they'll stay up. Yeah, when they play right teams like Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, etc., they might struggle. But against other teams like, say, Kilmarnock stay up, for example, or Ross County, I think they could compete quite easily with them. So I've got no doubt if they come up, they do a really good job. But tonight, it's a huge, huge game for them. They have to win this game and get back to winning ways. Because I'm just looking now, it's 3 games on the bounce that they've not won. And last week against Partick Thistle, I thought they were awful. They were really, really poor. Fair play to Partick Thistle, they were excellent. But Queen's Park, I did not expect that capitulation. I watched them and thought, I just don't know what's happened to them. They've just completely fallen apart at the wrong time.
Yeah, maybe you're right in saying that, Graham, about Queen's Park if they come up. And you forgot to mention, or maybe you forgot about them, Livingston. I think they would compete with Livingston. In a way that they might have a bit more of a budget than kind of like Livingston as well. But yeah, Queen's Park tonight. Let's look at the other games tomorrow. Cove Rangers against Inverness. Of course, Inverness is technically maybe out of the running, but they still get something to play for a semi-final against Falkirk in a few weeks' time. Dundee against Morton, Partick Thistle against Ayr United, Raith Rovers against Arbroath. So that is the game tomorrow, Graham. But I mean, just kind of like touching upon Inverness, would you say that they're out of the running now, but they've still got something to play for in terms of like a big semi-final in a few weeks against Falkirk, and like giving John Robertson a kind of like so ahead in terms of picking the right team.
Well, it's Billy Dawes that's in charge.
Billy
But
Dawes, yeah.
I think for Inverness, I think right now, looking at the league table, they are sitting fifth. They can still get in the playoff though. I think it's they're 2 points behind Dundee United, so they could still get the playoff place. But I think for Inverness, if I'm an Inverness fan right now, I'm looking ahead to that semi-final, because no disrespect to Falkirk, could have a very good cup side, and they've shown that. That's the game that Inverness, for me, should be looking to win. Now, again, I don't know what the ticket sales are being like for that game. It probably won't be that big, to be honest. But it's a huge, huge game. The financial implications of them getting to a final, same as Falkirk as well, would be huge. And that, for me now, is probably Billy Dawes' biggest game of the season. He won't admit that. Of course he won't. Until they get to the semi-final, he won't admit that. He'll want to keep going and try and do as well as he can in the league. But that semi-final is massive now. It's going to be huge. And actually, it's funny because I listened to a couple of podcasts a couple of days ago, and they had an Inverness fan on it. And the Inverness fan actually did kind of say that the semi-final now is the biggest game of the season. And I can't disagree with that. It's a massive day out. The financial implications, they're not, let's be honest. I do think it will be Celtic in the final, but they're not going to beat Celtic or Rangers in the final, let's be honest. But just getting there would be absolutely huge for them as a club and for Billy Dawes as well. I think Billy Dawes has done a great job at Inverness, but they've still got a lot to play for. They can still get the playoff place. They can get to a final. They've still got a lot to play for, but I think in terms of that game tomorrow, it's a game that they probably should be looking to win, but it's going to be such a tough game. And we've got more comments coming in here. As Lino says, it's time. 3 times 18 teams league. Welcome some new from the Highland Lowland. And I've already said that. I agree with that. I've mentioned numerous times I think the league needs to get extended. Scott says TV won't allow it. They need the 4 guaranteed Old Firm league games. Again, I kind of see that as well, but I've said numerous times they should have, when they had the chance, when they demoted Hearts, Partick Thistle, and I can't remember the other one, they should have extended the league then. It should have been 18-team league, and they didn't do it. This is where I think the SFA have really messed up, and I know we'll get to them shortly if we're going to talk about the ban for the Rangers women's coach, because I've got things to say about that as well, because I'm raging about that. Yeah. But this is where I think the SFA have let themselves down on that. They should have. Neil Doncaster, for me, is a waste of space. Ian Maxwell, waste of space. They've had numerous chances to extend the league and make it a bit better, because I've said this to you last week, and I've said it to Reagan as well. When you play the same team 4 times a season, potentially 5 or 6 in the cup competitions, it does get boring. It's a bit like the Nations League when Scotland played Israel just about every week. You got bored of each other. It's like, can we not play somebody else? So I would quite happily see the league extended, but I don't think they'll do it. They've had the chances and not done it. So I agree with that, Azalino, completely. I would love to see the league extended, but they won't do it.
No. They're not interested, Graham. I think that's the bottom line about it. Before we move on, let's speak about Cove Rangers. There's a good saying in football, Graham, is when you've been a manager once upon a time at a team, do not go back there. And I think that you can associate that with Paul Hartley. I mean, why did he go back to Cove? Because they've just been a sinking ship since he's been back in there.
Well, they had a nightmare at Hartlepool. That didn't work out. He's come back to Cove, and I think we said in one of the group chats, I was surprised that he went there, to be honest. And I think it is that kind of thing that, sometimes you just don't go back. Know when the time is right not to go back. But I think I'm looking at the last few fixtures. They had a decent result against Hamilton last week, but look at the fixtures before that. They got beat 5-0 by Partick, 3-0 by Ayr, 6-1 by Wraith. Then they got beat 1-0 by Queen's Park and 2-0 by Dundee. They just can't keep clean sheets. And if you've got to give yourself a chance. If you keep conceding goals, you're going to be struggling. They don't look like they're going to score enough goals, and they're conceding far too many. So I think Paul Hartley is on a really poor run. And every Hearts fan loves Paul Hartley for what he did for Hearts. You know, that semi-final against Hibs in 2006 where he scored that hat-trick. He's a hero at Hearts for me. But he's had an absolute nightmare since he came back. Now, he's had a few injuries. He's not really had... I mean, Cove Rangers don't have a massive budget, let's be honest. He's just an absolute nightmare. Whether he... I think they probably will, and I hate saying this, I think they will be in League One next season. I think they'll go down. Whether they can come straight back up, I don't know. But Hartley's got a lot of work to do. Again, I've talked to Eleanor about the fact that, you know, is the Championship a place that folk want to go? Is League One going to be enticing for folk to go? I don't know how Paul Hartley gets folk to join a League One club. It's going to be very difficult. I hope he can turn it around because I love Hartley. But Cove have just been in absolute shambles. And again, they've got a really tough game tomorrow, but it's going to be... I think they're down. I really do think they're down.
Obviously, we'll speak about the derby in a minute, but you were mentioning Paul Hartley. Hearts are looking for a manager at the moment. Would you take him back then?
No, absolutely not. I've been very vocal on this as well a few times that I don't want to see any former player or manager coming back to Hearts. I just don't want it. Because we've had it numerous times. We had it with John Robertson. We had it with Craig Levein. We had it with Robbie Neilson. I don't want that. I want somebody outside of the club, whether it's a foreign manager, somebody from abroad, England, wherever, I don't mind. But I don't want an ex-player or manager coming back to Hearts. I just think it ruins their legacy. Now, Craig Levein didn't have a massive legacy. But, for example, when John Robertson got the job a long time ago, I didn't want him getting the job because I would never want to say Robertson should be sacked. I wouldn't want that. And I would say the same for Paul Hartley. I know his name's been mentioned a few times. I don't want Paul Hartley coming back to Hearts. I think it would tarnish what he's done before. So I am very much in that camp that I don't want an ex-Hearts manager, an ex-Hearts player. And I know we'll get on to Hearts in a minute, but Stephen Naismith at the moment for the last 7 games, absolutely fine. I don't want him full-time next season. And I'll tell you my reasons why when we get on to Hearts.
Yeah, and okay, so I'm going to reverse the bus a wee bit, or whatever. So first word came into my head, the bus, I don't know. A car, a plane, or a bike, I'm not sure. Or maybe Gary Caldwell passing the ball back. Sorry if you're watching Gary Caldwell. Graham might find that funny just because he was Hy-Vee. Let's go on. Why did you just say that for? I'm random.
Are you feeling all right?
No, I've never felt all right in my 39 years. Anyway, let's go on with the show. Ross County Aberdeen, Graham. This game's on Sky tonight. Wow, 2 games covered on the same weekend. What do you make of this game, Graham? Obviously, we saw Ross County the other week against Celtic. Celtic won by, 2-0 that game. But Aberdeen, meanwhile, Aberdeen is going there in a real good vein of form at the moment under Barry Robson. Well,
I want Ross County to win because it's going to help Hearts. I think it's a very tough game. I think Ross home are a decent side. I think Malcolm McKay's done a decent job. Looking at the league table, I mean, they are sitting second bottom, but they had a really good win last week against St Johnstone, and they deserved it as well. A brilliant goal from Simon Murray. Fantastic finish. I think that's his first goal for County, actually. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Ross County will be a difficult test. But, again, I have to give massive credit to Barry Robson. He's done a brilliant job. I think when Jim Goodwin got sacked, it was going to be very hard to come in there and do a decent job. I think he's done brilliantly. You know, he's got those players playing for him, like I hope Naismith has for Hearts. He's got one of the most informed players in the league just now in Duke, who will be a massive threat tonight. It's a huge, huge game. Aberdeen win tonight. They go 5 points clear of Hearts before that game tomorrow. It's a massive, massive game. But I hate saying this, but I do think Aberdeen will probably win this tonight because they are in form. But Ross County at home have a threat. As I say, Simon could be a massive threat. I think Eamon Brophy's out. They've got Jordan White who could cause problems. I don't know if Jan Dander's back. I said this to Ross when I was on the show a few weeks ago. I think that Cancola I've been really impressed by. So, yeah, it is a potentially hard game for Aberdeen tonight. And I really hope, I'm not going to be biased, I hope Ross County win to help Hearts out. But I do think the way Aberdeen are playing just now, I think Aberdeen might just sneak it by the odd goal, maybe 2-1, I think.
Yeah, no, exactly. I hate to say this, Graham, but if Aberdeen wins tonight or picks up any points whatsoever, and we're going to the remaining games of the season, would you not give Barry Robson the job full time?
I think it's a hard one. I think if he does well, and he has been, it's probably going to be very hard not to give him the job. Because how do you say, well, you've done a great job, you've got a start in the league, but we're going to punt you? I would be very harsh if they did that. So, yeah, I think it's probably Barry Robson's to lose. And you can see the Aberdeen players are playing for him, which for me, again, is a bit of an embarrassment to those players that weren't doing it for Jim Goodwin and weren't doing it for Stephen Glass. The fact they're now doing it for a new guy who has very little managing experience, it really is an embarrassment to those players. They should have been doing a lot better than that. But as I said, they do have one of the most outstanding players in the league just now, apart from Lawrence Shankland, and I don't want to say Kyogo, but I will. In Duke, I think Duke's been outstanding. He's been absolutely superb. And I said before, and to any Aberdeen fans watching this, I'm sorry, but I don't think Duke will be there next season. He's too good for Aberdeen. So, yeah, I mean, I think if Barry Robson gets Aberdeen to third, pray that he doesn't, then I don't see how you can't give him the job.
A very good evening to Mr. Stevens. It's the first time I've been on with you for about 5 years, so it's good to have you back on the show, Regan.
I know I'm nearly as quiet as Matthew.
I
bet you put the two disappeared together.
At least you came back from the shops, but you never gave me that milk.
Oh, sorry about that, Michael. Yep, I'm listening to you guys talking about Aberdeen there. Aberdeen have been great under Robson, Michael. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game tonight.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. And for Ross County, Reagan, obviously, that we were talking about Ross County. We saw them a few weeks ago against Celtic, and the performance wasn't that bad, actually.
No, I thought they gave a good account of themselves and they played well. It's just a case for them to try and do the best they can. I actually think they'll beat Aberdeen tonight. I do. I think.
Please let that happen. Please let that happen.
But Graham, do you want to know my wee secret? I actually think Hearts are going to beat tomorrow.
Right, you're getting. I'm taking you off this call. I'm removing you from this call.
Controversial. Yes, yeah. He's removed himself. Yeah, that's what we like to see in the show about controversy.
I was only joking. Come back.
See, that's the thing we Regan like, because me and you are very professional and get to the points, but he really gets to the nub of the points. So yeah. But
see,
Regan,
do I now add them back into the call? Just let him wait in the background there. Would that be really cruel? No,
I would maybe add him about 10 to 7. There you go. I thought you were doing a Chris Sutton the other week there on BT Sport, but yeah. So Aberdeen, Ross County will give you the team news tonight about 6:45. It usually comes out up at Dingwall. So let's move on to the Hearts and Hibs and Hearts game tomorrow. First of all, Reagan, me and Graham doesn't know why the game's a 12:30 kickoff. Graham says it's to get more fans there, but to be honest, you would play that game at 5 in the morning, and I think you would get a full house at East Road or Tynecastle. Are you not a bit disappointed why there's not another big derby not on the TV?
Yeah, I mean, this is no disrespect to Ross County Aberdeen, but I'd much rather see Hibs and Hearts.
That's what I said to Graham.
Of course, I'm going to be there tomorrow, so I'm going to see the game. But I mean, I think it'll be interesting. I think it's a according to Andy Walker, it's a police matter. the police prefer it to be early so that people don't get they can take on as much alcohol. That's what it's supposed to be, Michael. But yep, I'm looking forward to it, and I think, like I heard Lee Johnson yesterday at his press conference saying that that his team can possibly get first spot. So he's got a cheek after getting beat off bottom of the table last week. But if you remember, Graham, I did actually predict Dundee United would get a result. So, yep, I think it'll be interesting tomorrow, Michael, and it's just a case of who turns up, because I don't know if Hearts will get that new manager bounce, as they always say in football.
We'll get on to the Hearts in a minute, but yeah, you were right. I was watching it as well, and Lee Johnson is touting the Hibs to finish in the top half of the table. He also said, we are looking forward to this game. It's going to be a full house, and it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for us to win. We have the top 6, and we want to stay there. So 3 points is a must. Late enough, when I go to Mr. Duffy, he'll say the opposite.
100%. I'm going to say the opposite. I think it's a very, very difficult game to call. As I said, derby games are notoriously hard to call, although Hearts have had a decent record in them recently. I think we're now 9 games unbeaten. But yeah, I think Lee Johnson saying that Hibs can still finish third. I'd love to know what he's drinking or smoking. No chance. They might not even finish top 6.
Come on, Graham.
Let's be honest. What? Hibs are not finishing third. Right? Let's get that right. Hibs are not finishing third.
You're meant to be not biased on the show.
I'm being unbiased. I'm being realistic. I'm being honest. Hibs are not finishing. Hibs are more likely to get relegated than finish third.
I'll hold Blue Jackets, guys, right?
I'm only winding you up. I'm only winding you up.
I'll hold Blue Jackets.
No, I mean, I think, I mean, it is one of these games. I said before, I kind of get nervous for these games, even though Hearts have got a better team than Hibs. For me, it's a difficult game to call because Hibs are coming off the back of a really poor result last week and a poor performance as well. I thought they were very good against United. I don't know what Will Fish was doing for that goal, to be honest. I was going to make a fish joke, but I probably better not.
I think he was fishing for the goal. Sorry, Glenn.
Plenty more fish in the sea.
Boom. Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of Hearts. So I have heard them. I've pretty much listened to a lot of nonsense this week from pundits and stuff saying, Robbie Neilson being sacked is very harsh. It's a poor call. That's up. We've never seen a Hearts game all season. All they're looking at is the league table and saying, how can you sack a guy that's sitting fourth in the league just now? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we've had 6 defeats in 7. We've played really poor football. It's been quite clear for weeks the players are not playing for Robbie Neilson. So for me, it was entirely the right call. Now, did I expect the board? Did I expect the board to do it? No, I didn't. Last Sunday, when I saw the news coming through that he'd been sacked, I was genuinely surprised. I didn't think they would do it. Now, I've seen again a lot of folks say, maybe they could have given him the derby to try and win the game. I think it's entirely the right call. Now, I heard another ex-Hearts man a couple of days ago talking about the fact that a lot of Hearts fans never took to Robbie Neilson. That I do agree with. I've said before, Robbie Neilson has never been he's never been massively liked by a few Hearts fans. I have backed him this season as much as more than that. I have backed him this season. I've got behind him quite a few times, but the football recently has been very poor. I think last week against St Mirren, I said before, St Mirren were excellent. Now, last Friday when I did the show, I said that I thought Hearts were winning last week because we were at home.
You did.
But we were terrible. We were absolutely terrible. You know, St Mirren bullied us. That first goal, Curtis Main, it's a great finish. But Kai Rolls was really poor for the goal. And then the second goal is even worse. A throw in, Curtis Main beats 2 Hearts players. And Mark O'Hara, why Alan Forrest is marking Mark O'Hara, although, marking is being touch tight, Alan Forrest was nowhere near. But as soon as that second goal went in, the Hearts fans were leaving the stadium. And it was kind of funny because I actually watched a clip back last week, and when the second goal goes in, it pans to Joe Savage in the stand, who's got his head in his hands. He knew then he had to act. So it's entirely the right decision. There's seven games to go. It's entirely the right call. Stephen Naismith coming in for these last 7 games, I've got no problem with that. I've heard Naismith this week getting interviewed, and he's come across very well. He's been very positive. He's talked about the fact that Hearts fans want us to play attacking football. I think a couple of things said have been a bit of a veiled dig at Robbie Neilson in terms of playing attacking football and not sitting back on a 1-0 lead, and also talk about young players that don't come through. So there has been a couple of veiled digs at him. And again, the one thing that I think he's done at the moment, when a new manager comes in, whether it's short-term or long-term, I'm always intrigued to see what he's going to do in terms of team selection, in terms of team shape. The one thing that Stephen Naismith has done already, he's made a statement by basically saying that Robert Snodgrass won't play again for Hearts. Now, that's a massive, massive statement, a massive call, which I completely agree with, because Snodgrass has been terrible. And I think, and again, folk might disagree with me here, and I'm going to be controversial. I think he deliberately got sent off against St Mirren last week.
Oh, come on, Graham.
Before Reagan and Graham goes into round 5, Scott's commented here, and he says, 12:30 kickoff as Hibs have used their rights to show the game live on Sky after Sky basically pulled out of the game. So there you go. No surprise there that Sky has pulled out. Before we hear from Reagan on round 10, let's hear from Robbie Neilson. In fact, we won't hear. We'll hear from Stephen Naismith. I took the eye off the ball there. Did you see that, Graham? I'm sorry about that. He says, I've got a real exciting opportunity tomorrow, and it's going to be enjoyable. It is a massive club. In my eyes, we are coming up against the toughest run of fixtures we have had all season going into Saturday's game. I think it's a great game to start with, and a game like it's early for everybody to get up. It's a derby at the end of the day. He goes on to say that if we make a mistake, we make mistakes, but we've got a clear plan. We want to win every game, and that begins tomorrow. So your thoughts on Stephen Naismith, Graham?
Well, I think he spoke very well. I listened to his comments on Hearts TV a few days ago when he got the job, and I wrote a couple of bullet points down on what I thought was quite interesting, because he said there is a demand at the club and it has to be a good demand. Now, again, I quite like that, because when you play for a big club like Hearts are, in my opinion, there has to be that demand. You have to win games. You have to be playing good football. He spoke about the fact that fans want attacking football. They want a team that goes into every game trying to win it. And this is what I said about the fact that I think this is a bit of a veiled dig at Robbie Neilson, because he did say we want a team that's not going to defend and hold on to 1-0 lead. They want to play it in football. I think that's a bit of a veiled dig at Robbie Neilson.
I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for years, Graham. Robbie Neilson's brand of football, it was okay in the Championship when they won it by 15 to 20 points or whatever, but see, when you're coming up against these teams, fans get bored very easily. And especially with social media nowadays, I could tell, even not as a Hearts fan, Graham, I could tell that I don't think the fans really took to Robbie, especially because Hibs won the Cup 2012 on the way to beating Hearts. Also, the Brora Rangers as well. So there's been a few bumps in the road. And then if you look at the performances they're put in against Celtic Rangers, I mean, that performance early in the season when Rangers were playing terrible and they still beat Hearts by 5-0 under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. And then you've got the Celtic games. Every time the Hearts play against Celtic, it's a bit one-sided as well, apart from the 4-3 game when Shankland scores a hat-trick in the first game with VAR. But you need to say, as a Hearts fan as well, you want to see your team competing against Celtic and Rangers, Graham?
see what, before I go back to Naismith, right, I'm going to go back to Neilson. This could take a while, but bear with me. So I'm going to, as Lino says, was Neilson a victim of his own success being third? If they'd been hanging around in fourth, losing the odd game here and there, the loss to St Mirren could have seemed like a blip. I'm going to talk about Robbie Neilson just now, right? Because I do believe that Robbie Neilson, in his at Hearts, was a success. Now, folk will say, how was he successful? He didn't win anything. But what I will say is, he was basically got us promoted from the Championship twice. First time of asking. He got us to 2 cup finals. Now, that game against Celtic in the cup final went to penalties. We were a Stephen Kingsley penalty from winning that game.
Yep.
Now, the final last year against Rangers was a massive, massive letdown. Now, every manager, whether you're Pep Guardiola, whether you're Jurgen Klopp, whether you're Alex Ferguson, managers make mistakes. Robbie Neilson made numerous mistakes in his career, in his management. Now, I think one of the biggest ones was last season, because that was a Rangers side that had just played extra time of penalties in a European final against Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
We should have gone into that game being attacking, being on the front foot and pressing them and seeing what they had. We didn't do that. We sat back and we defended the whole game. That was a massive, massive mistake from Robbie Neilson. His subs in that game as well. It was 0-0 at the time. Liam Boyce had to come off because he was knackered. And rather than bring on, and listen, I'm not a massive fan of Ben Woodburn, but rather than attack, he brought Andy Halliday on. That was a massive mistake. He went defensive. So Robbie Neilson had his flaws, but he was successful. Now, yes, Brora Rangers was a massive letdown. Alloa was a massive letdown. He could have gone after Brora. I wanted him going after Brora. I said that on the show. I wanted him going after Brora. But Neilson, in his 2 spells, was successful. And Reagan, you were right. You were absolutely right. A lot of Hearts fans never forgave Neilson when Hibs wanted to win the Cup, having beat Hearts in that replay. That's one of the things that happened. But I am not going to sit here and be negative about Neilson. I could be, but I'm not going to be, because he did a good job. But the time was right for him to go. Last week, they were poor. 6 defeats in 7. We were awful again. And I think it was clear for me the players weren't playing for him. And again, I talk about Robert Snodgrass. The loyalty to Snodgrass let Neilson down, because I guarantee right now, if Neilson was still here and Snodgrass wasn't suspended tomorrow, he'd have played tomorrow. No doubt about that. Stephen Naismith has come in, and straight away he's talked about the fact that he wants to play attacking, attractive football. Now, again, I know, and I said this in the group chat earlier, what managers say in press conferences, what they say to fans is lip service, is what you do on the pitch. But Robbie Neilson never had that kind of passion that Naismith has. Straight away, Naismith spoke about playing attacking, entertaining football. That's great, but I want to see that tomorrow. What I want to see tomorrow, I want to win, obviously, but what I want to see tomorrow is a team that plays with intensity, passion, desire, energy. I want to see that tomorrow. I want to see a team that wins, but I want to see all that. And this is when I'm going to go to Naismith as well, because if Stephen Naismith does well and we get into if we get Europe next season, I'm going to say this now, and I'm not going to apologise for it. I don't want Naismith as manager next season, no matter what happens, because, and I'll tell you why. Stephen Naismith has no experience of part of the B team. I want, if Hearts get third and we get European football, we need a manager that can balance European football and domestic football. Naismith does not have that experience. So I don't want Naismith getting the job next season, no matter what happens.
Totally agree with you, because that's what happened with Celtic when Brendan Rodgers left. Neil Lennon did really well with the caretaker, and then he got the job in the Hampden Shower. So I think if you look at it, looking back on it, Neil Lennon probably wasn't the obvious candidate. It was a cheap option, same as Naismith at the moment. I think if you're Naismith at the moment, like Graham was saying there, that's all claptrap. If a team go and get beat tomorrow, I think the most important for him, Graham, is to put a smile on your face tomorrow and go there and get the 3 points. Because
I've heard that this week. No, I was going to say I've heard again players that come out in the press, and I knew this would happen. Like Lawrence Shankland, I saw earlier on today, said that the players let the manager down. Honestly, that really annoys me when they do that, because I knew it was going to happen. Yes, you did. But the thing is, it's all very well saying that, again, I think it was yesterday I heard from somebody that training's been really good this week. It's been really high intensity. That means nothing. It's what you do in that park tomorrow.
No,
Because they could go in that park tomorrow and do
nothing.
exactly the same thing as those players could go in that park tomorrow and do the same thing as we do for the last few weeks. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do in training. Show it on that park. Go to East Road tomorrow and win that game and show something.
But it's back to what you were saying, Graham. I mean, how many times has the three of us watched players getting the manager the sack and coming out the next day and say, well, it was partly our fault. But you're dead right, Graham, in saying that. Don't say that, because that's just going to make matters worse. Keep your mouth shut. Talk about going forward. Don't look back the way in football. Why do they say that? It's just to make headlines, and it's just to make like clickbait and stuff like that. But I don't come out and say things like that. It really annoys me.
I think the biggest thing, if you're a Hearts fan as well, you need to remember that Aberdeen have been absolutely awful this season. They got beat by a junior Premier League side. They were 10 points behind Hearts not so long ago, and now Aberdeen are 2 points in front. So that has to leave a better taste in the mouth as well. The fact that Aberdeen have been terrible this season, they've got beat so many games. It's not as if Aberdeen have been flying and they've been absolutely brilliant. I think it's one of the worst Aberdeen performances I've seen for a long, long time. I mean, look at the performances that they've done under Jim Goodwin. 6-0 at Easter Road, 5-0 at Tynecastle. You need to look at it and say to yourself, this has been a terrible Aberdeen side, and Hearts are fourth at the moment. So I know people are saying that our Hearts are fourth and everything could be okay if they win tomorrow. But at the end of the day, Aberdeen were 10 points behind, and now they're 2 points in front.
That's the other thing that annoys me about the pundits that I've heard this week that have come out and said, it's really harsh that Neilson's been sacked. That's exactly right, Reagan. The reason that he's been sacked is we've lost 6 out of the last 7, and we've lost a 10-point lead. So I don't know how anyone can look. I don't know how any pundit can look at that and say, it's a really poor decision to sack Neilson. It wasn't. Clearly, there were things not right behind the scenes. And I don't know if this is right or not. I've heard rumours of bust-ups in the dressing room. I don't know if that's right. Well, maybe I never know. But it was the right call. And now, Stephen Naismith, for me now, and I know this might, again, be wrong, but for me, Stephen Naismith can't lose. Because if he does well and gets Hearts to third, brilliant. If he doesn't, none of this is on him. It's not his fault. And again, I just want to go back to something very, very quickly as well, is the fact that something that Neil said that I agree with as well, talked about the fact that we need to do better with youth players. We've not played young players this season. And I think Naismith has had a massive dig at the club for that by saying it's something we need to be better at. So I think tomorrow, and I actually said this on one of the Twitter spaces I did last week, I think there's every chance that 2 or 3 of the B team players will be involved tomorrow. Where they start, I don't know, but I think they'll be involved tomorrow. And I'm really intrigued to see what team Naismith chooses out tomorrow. And I said this last week. One of the biggest pluses for me about tomorrow's game is Robert Snodgrass is suspended, because he has been awful for weeks. He's far too slow.
Reagan, from a Hibs point of view going into the game, I can't believe they're turning around the Lee Johnson side, because a few weeks ago they were playing Aberdeen, and that was classed as El Saco, and obviously we know what happened after that. Jim Goodwin went for the 5:45 claim from Waverley Station, and Lee Johnson went to the pub, right? But after that, what a difference Lee Johnson has made. I know that Graham doesn't want to hear this on the eve of a big game, but what a difference that he's made to that Hibs squad, and they've been picking up points as well.
They've been picking up points. They had a disappointing result last week away to Dundee United, but I think if they win tomorrow, they could be in a very good position, especially with Aberdeen playing tonight. and knowing that if you pick up points, you've got a real big chance. I think the disappointing thing for them, Michael, we've spoken about Martin Boyle and that being a very big player for them. I think it's McGuinness as well. He's out for the season, so they've got quite a lot of players injured, which is will be disappointing for them. But like you said, if Lee Johnson gets that victory on the board tomorrow, then there's every chance they could get third. And I think it's going to make for an interesting game because as much as we say if he gets a win, but if he manages to lose that game tomorrow, the pressure cooker then goes right on him because it'll be like he's working in a kitchen with Gordon Ramsay. The place will start to go. I mean, I know football can be fickle at times, but that just shows you if he gets a win, he's the best things in sliced bread. But if he loses, then the pressure starts to go on, and have fans start to go, we might not even get top 6 here.
And I know that we were talking a few weeks ago on the show about Robbie Neilson and you know the poor record, and even if he was winning games, that the fans still want to get him out. But I feel as though, and I've got no connections with Hibs or whatsoever. Maybe you do tomorrow by going to the game. I'm not sure, but the Hibs fans must be buying into the way that, but not the way the Johnson's playing, but the way that he's winning games.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, last week was a disappointing game, but I think he really played an attractive brand of football. I've been really impressed with is it Kobayashi?
Kobayashi, yeah.
No, Kobayashi. Who's the Ukrainian guy up top for Hibs? Is it Kobayashi?
Kucherevsky.
I've been impressed with him. I think he's a good player, and I think in terms of Hibs, they'll be hoping that a lot of the players have a good game tomorrow because, like I said, it could be season defining, especially with St Mirren going to Ibrox. They'll be thinking, right, if we get the 3 points here, we could really creep on up on St Mirren. I do think it's going to be amazing last end of the season. I know probably the only team that's not got anything to play for is probably Rangers because Celtic will cruise to the league, even though Rugby Park's a difficult place to go, difficult venue. The best thing about Kilmarnock is the pies. But I think in terms of this game tomorrow, I'm looking forward to watching it. I think it's going to be interesting. And I think, like the was saying there, if Stephen Naismith brings in some young players, that'll make it even better.
Let's move on now to speak about the game at Ibrox. As you said, you actually take out very nicely, Reagan. That's why we have a good 5-a-side team on the show at times. Before we get to the game, and Graham mentioned it earlier on, let's mention about the 5-game ban that Craig Ferguson, Craig
McPherson.
Craig McPherson, yeah. And I saw that news yesterday and I was gobsmacked, but I wasn't surprised at the SFA doing that. Now, I know that we spoke about it on the show weeks ago, and I know that Reagan, you've not had a chance to speak about it because you've not been on. So what was your take on the incident, first of all, and then we'll go on to speak about the ban that he got?
Well, Michael, people know that I like the ladies' football, and I think the product's getting better. So I was really disappointed that happened because at the end of the day, it brought attention to the game in the wrong fashion for me. I mean, the big thing is like the thing that should be drawn attention is the fact that Celtic got a last minute equaliser and Fran Alonso and the players doing really well. It shouldn't be about Craig McPherson getting a 6-match ban for headbutting the manager. I just thought it was a total lack of respect for. I just don't know why you would do that to somebody. I can get the emotion of the old firm game, but why would you? Why would that even cross his mind? And the fact that he's only going to get six matches for me, I think is very soft by the SFA. They need to make a stand on these people, because if you can get a 6-game ban for heading at the opposite manager, then I'm sorry, but there needs to be a bigger punishment, because for a coach of two of the biggest clubs in the country to do something like that, it makes headlines in the wrong way, and we need to stamp it out.
Graham, it was ironic how Sky took up that game, but when you think back to it, just as well, Sky was there to cover the game as well. But before we go on to the ban, because me and you can go on by high horses here, right? But the police are still investigating. Now, I've got to ask you and Reagan a question here. What are they investigating? Because everybody saw it on the telly. I headbutted him. That was it. Nothing else. End of story. What else do they have to investigate?
Well, I think, as you pointed out at the time, and I think we actually both said at the time, that if you did that on the street, you'd be locked up for it. Yeah. Now it's live on Sky. It's been live on TV. There's no allegedly about it. It's happened. You can clearly see it's happened. So and whatever the police,
by the way, sorry, Graham, he cut across you there. Before he went in the cell, he could have lost his job.
Well, for me, I think he should have done. To be honest, if you do that, then you, for me, should be out the door. And to be honest, if that was me, not that I would ever do that because I'm a liver, I'm not a fighter, but if that was me, I'd have resigned. I'd have said, you know what, I've let myself down, I've let the club down. You know, it's not right that I stay here. I would have resigned. Now, the fact that he hasn't done that, and the fact that Rangers have basically, I mean, look at the fact that it was a week. Was it over a week before they made a statement?
Yeah.
That again in itself, they should have come out straight away or the next day and said, look, we don't condone this at all. It's horrendous. We will investigate this. They didn't. They waited a whole week before they said something. And even then, it was pointless saying anything because there was nothing in that.
I think that's spot on what you're saying there, Graham. I just wanted to just jump in and say they should be making an example because how are the people going to feel for the managers and for the ladies playing the game? How are they going to feel when they see him turning back up and seeing that he's got no consequences? Because he's still going to be taking. Sorry, Graham. He's still going to be taking the training. He's still going to be there. The only thing that's going to be missing is that he's banned by the SFA. So I think internally, Rangers as a club have totally misjudged this, because you should be saying, right, the SFA think it's bad, but Rangers should be saying it's bad too. Rangers have not done anything about it.
Don't forget as well. Sorry, Michael. Don't forget as well that there was kids at that game. Don't forget there was kids at that game, and there was kids watching on TV. What precedent does that set? What precedent does that set? These kids are going to be looking at it thinking, "Oh, sorry if I go and headbutt somebody." That sets a really dangerous precedent, and it doesn't set a good example at all. And in terms of the ban, I know we get to that in a minute, but in terms of the ban, it's an absolute joke. I mean, I said this in the group chat yesterday and put it on Twitter as well. Jim Goodwin got an 8-game touchline ban for calling Ryan Porteous a cheat. So basically, it's okay for the SFA to give a 8-game ban for someone for calling someone a cheat, but yet they give a physical headbutt a 6-game ban. That is an absolute disgrace. That should have been the thing is as well, right? I thought about this yesterday. I've seen managers get 3 or 4 game touchline ban for having a go at an official. So basically, all McPherson's got is an extra 2-game ban for saying something to the referee. That is an absolute joke. He should have got the book thrown at him, and a 6-game ban it's shocking. It is absolutely terrible.
It's not this is not just an SFA matter. This should be a Rangers matter, where Rangers stand up as a club and say, we don't think it's acceptable. But as Graham pointed out, Rangers have not made a statement and said, this is unacceptable, we're going to ban this guy. They've kept the guy on, the guy's still on a job.
Yeah, but I mean, Reagan, and I've made this point before, right? And I'll say it to Graham on the show, right? The headbutt wasn't to do with Celtic equalising after 89 minutes of the game, right? Forget that, right? It must have been something else. But if me and you had a disagreement on the touchline, right, and we were going on the park to shake hands, right, or whatever, right? Why go in the park?
I just find it all wrong. Like, I mean, I just don't know what I don't know why that would even enter his mind. I've heard people saying on TV and stuff, Sky, like about a rush of blood and stuff. I don't care if it's a rush of blood. He should not be conducting himself in that way. And like Graham was saying there, if I headbutted you in the street, Michael, I'd be in the jail.
Yeah, right away. There's no doubt about it. Like, yeah, and plus, and don't forget that, like, see if you were, I mean, Graham, like, see, like, if you're out for a night out or, whatever, you actually, I know that sounds a bit daft what I'm going to see here, but you're actually representing your job. That the company that you work for, same with me, same with Reagan and all that, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the house one night or out in the public, you're representing you, but also you're representing the company that you're working for. Now he's representing Rangers Football Club and he's doing that.
I mean, I don't know what a night out is anymore because I'm 44 and I don't tend to go out now, so I don't know what that is. But yeah, I mean, it is an absolute disgrace, and I think Craig McPherson knows himself. He's got off lightly with that. He knows he's got off lightly with that. But again, what precedence does that set for the women's game? We
that means anybody can. That means anybody can do it, Graham. I'm no.
But this is where it sets a dangerous precedent because now, if I'm a player and I've got a problem with somebody, I'm just going to headbutt them. And just go, well, he only got a 6-game ban. Why can't I get the same thing? It sets a really dangerous precedent. They should have made an example of him. Rangers should have made an example of him by sacking him. And the FA should have done a lot more. They should have thrown the book at him. And they've not done it. And the fact that Craig McPherson will be back in that dugout after 6 games is an absolute disgrace.
But the thing is, as well, take it back to Jim Goodwin, right? If you swore at a ref or gave him, a rogue sign or the fingers or whatever, you would get more games for that.
This is what I really get annoyed at, right? And I know that referees have got a hard job. I know that fourth officials have got a hard job, but it's like being back at school. It's like telltale. Oh, you shout something at the referee, the fourth official. I can't wait to get my flag up and say, oh, he shouted at me, he's a bully. It's brutal. Honestly, these people need to get a grip. And again, I'm going off on a tangent as well, right? Now, I know that this is a completely separate incident. But last week, you've got the linesman at Liverpool game elbowing Andy Robertson. Nothing. I
saw that today, by the way, for the first time.
Now, I know that Roy Keane talked about Andy Robertson being a big baby. This is the same Roy Keane that decided to end Haaland's career because he couldn't be bothered with him. I can't be bothered with Roy Keane at times, honestly. But now I know there maybe wasn't much in the incident. Andy Robertson, I watched it and I thought, I don't really see what Andy Robertson's done wrong here. Every player has a go at an official. Andy Robertson hasn't touched the linesman. He hasn't. He says something to him. But the fact that the linesman has then decided to elbow him, the fact is he's now said, oh, we're not going to take any action. I think that's an absolute joke. It's my opinion, but I just think it's an absolute joke.
Yeah, let's move on. I guess that we touch upon that before we actually go into the game itself because it made headlines and it made me kind of annoyed, but in a way, I wasn't too surprised, Graham, that the SFA's done wrong as well. And Ross Wilson has left Rangers as well, and Donald Park has stepped down. Michael Beale actually was speaking about Ross Wilson today, and he said, we wish Ross Wilson, we wish him well, and he was good to me. In and about the training centre, he was a good guy to have. I worked closely with him and he done a good job. Let's go into the team news. A lot of injuries, actually. Connor Golson, Kolatz, Scott Wright, Ryan Jack, and Ryan Kent is all out. He then goes on to speak about the game tomorrow. He says Stevie Robertson has a good job at St Mirren. He makes things difficult. He's going to make things difficult tomorrow, but I am looking forward to the game. And I did see our pal putting on the group on the comment section. St Mirren's not won at Ibrox since now. I gave it the big build up then, and I can't remember the year, and they could go back and look at the message.
1991.
1991. So it's
I wasn't even born.
So, you're making me and Graham quite old, mate, when you're saying that. Maybe Graham. I'm not as old as Graham. Not yet. Anyway. But good chance for St Mirren to go to Ibrox, Graham, tomorrow.
Well, I'm actually just looking at something else that Aslino says here. I'm just trying to see one of the comments he made. So St Mirren only need 1 point to secure top 6. Whether they get that tomorrow, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, as I said, St Mirren were excellent last week at Tynecastle, played really well. Curtis Main has been in unbelievable form recently. They have a chance. And again, I think, as Lino basically said, that their fans can be turned. I agree with that. I think if St Mirren can go there, keep it compact, and I think with the threat of Curtis Main, who's been very impressive this season, they have a chance tomorrow. I think in terms of Rangers, again, I think they played okay at Celtic Park last week. I could see what they tried to do. They tried to press Celtic and get in their faces, but they didn't really create a lot. I mean, fair play to James Tavernier. It was a brilliant free kick last week.
Amazing free kick,
I mean, I thought Celtic were still, having not played that well, still the better side. But Rangers have kind of, I think you've mentioned this as well, Michael, before as well. At home, Rangers haven't actually been that impressive. And I think if St Mirren can go there tomorrow, keep it tight for the first, half an hour or so, and then, try and create a few chances, I think Curtis Main will cause them problems. And you just mentioned the injuries there. I honestly don't think Ryan Kent is going to be that big a miss. I think he's been dreadful for most of the games this season. Ryan Jack's one of these guys I'm never convinced about. He's okay, but he's not a brilliant footballer. So, I think St Mirren, as we know, what minute will Rangers get their penalty? But I think
penalty
St
bingo
Mirren can go there tomorrow I think St Mirren can go there tomorrow in good confidence. They're sitting 5th. They've got a good chance. Assuming, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if Hibs were to beat Hearts tomorrow, St Mirren know that they could jump above Hearts if they win that game. So it's a massive, massive game. But, I mean, Rangers have got to imagine at home they'd win that game. But I think Reagan's right. Rangers probably don't have much to play for now apart from that semi-final. Whether they're going to rest a few players tomorrow, I don't know. But, I mean, in terms of Ross Wilson, again, I listened to podcasts this week, as I tend to do, and his fans are actually not as gone. I think he's had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. The recruitment has not been overly impressive, especially in January. So, I don't think a lot of Rangers fans are that bothered that Ross Wilson's gone. Michael Beale's obviously going to say it's a big loss. Of course he's going to say that. But I don't actually think it's going to be that big a miss, to be honest.
No, I think you're better with Jockey Wilson.
190!
I think his recruitment's been terrible, Graham. I mean, if you look at the recruitment over the past couple of years, you've got Dallow, you've got Ramsey, you've got Redvan, who they wasted money on. I could name players off. Scott Wright, who's not contributed too much. Davis, who's been rubbish. John McLaughlin, who's not really impacted that much. I'm trying to think of the other ones. But you got loads.
John Suter, who can't get fit.
I'm trying to think of ones last year that Diallo guy, like, you've got loads, but I mean, I'm sure if you go back to previous years, I think the big thing for me for Rangers, right, they keep talking about we could get a big sell on for Kent, Morelos. They should have done that years ago when they got into Europe. They've waited too long. for me, you want to get 7 ginger bottles for Ryan Kent, who never mind 7 million. I mean, you're better with Clark Kent rather than Ryan Kent. I mean,
Oh, you're on fire tonight, mate.
I
Reagan.
think I've been back with a bang. It's April, Michael. You know,
That
might as well.
pre-season's done you well.
Was there not something a few years ago about Rangers could have sold Morelos for like 15 million? I don't think they get about 2 million for him now. Genuinely don't think they get about 2 million for him.
I was at the Chinese club that the Scottish press said. Remember this says that Alfredo Morelos is going to go to China and all that. But
You probably have to now.
From a St Mirren point of view, Reagan, going into the game tomorrow, I mean, they'll be confident looking at all these names out the team as well. But I mean, look at they went to Celtic Park early on in the season. I spoke to them about this, and okay, Celtic. I mean, they can do this to anyone. Like the one, what was it, 5-1 in the cup, and it took them about 75 minutes to get these kind of goals. But I mean, St Mirren are a very kind of like decent team.
Yeah, I think people forget, Michael, that St Mirren are a team that have took points off Celtic and Rangers this season. They beat Celtic at home 1-0 and through Markahara, and then
2-0.
2-0. Yep, and then I think they drew 1-1 in Gio's last game. I think it was drew 1-1.
They should have won that game as well. Yeah, they drew 1-1. They should have won that game.
So I think that'll give them confidence that they can really go toe-to-toe with them. Like, obviously, that St Mirren call that mentioned in there says that Rangers might get a penalty. Well, I think it's been an interesting week because I don't know what you guys feel, but I think for me, it's put a lot of pressure on the officials. I actually feel quite bad for them. I do, because I don't think Kevin Clancy got that much wrong last week. I know people have different views, but people need to remember that Kevin Clancy was the closest to the action last week. He could see what was going on in the box, and the fact that people are going on about this Morelos, and then Michael Beale, I think he apologised today for saying that the Celtic goal was handball. He said they got it totally wrong. That's good of him to hold his hands up. But yeah, I mean, for St Mirren tomorrow, they're probably not going to get a better chance to win a game. I don't know if you agree, Graham, but the fact that Rangers have got all the injuries, like Michael says, and the fact that St Mirren are playing pretty well, as you found it to your cause last week at Tynecastle, I think it was what I predicted as well, Graham. I did say you St Mirren will beat you tomorrow, and you say, I hope you're wrong.
See, now I'm worried because you said that last week and you said Hibs will win tomorrow, so I'm starting getting worried now. But yeah, Azolino's on fire today. He's put a lot of things in the chat here, which is great to see. St Mirren are a strong team against a possession team. That's why I think we might do it. I wouldn't take Morelos on a free. He's a liability and a negative influence. And I mean, I think Reagan again is spot on about I genuinely think you might see officials going back to being on strike again because of this whole thing, writing letters to other stuff. Although, and again, I know folk will disagree, I think that was a goal last week. I don't think if that's anywhere else on the pitch, that's never a free kick. Yeah. I think Kevin Clancy and the VR got that wrong. And even if you look at the goal last week, St Mirren scored against Hearts, Curtis Main pushes Kyrill's off the pitch, he's stronger. That's the same as last week. For me, that should have been the goal. That was wrong. But I think, again, the pressure on officials now is just getting ridiculous. And I would not be surprised if referees start going on strike again and we get more, because it shouldn't happen. Nobody should be doing their job and have to suffer death threats and stuff. It's, we're in 2023, guys. There's no need
I don't know if you guys have mentioned it because I come on at 5:15, but I think it's a disgrace that the people leaked his number and his email address. I mean, I think he's
you've got to look at the SFA for that, or people say, some get Rangers, but some get the SFA could be given information out to Rangers, and then Rangers are posting it on social media. I would be very surprised if anybody at Rangers would have his details. I think it would be the other way about. Like the SFA should could be giving information to Rangers, and then the next minute it's all over Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of it. But we need to move on. Another game tomorrow. Motherwell against Dundee United. Reagan, Dundee United had a good bounce last week against Hibs. And this is going to be a very entertaining game, actually, because Stuart Kettlewell has put the kettle on because he's done a decent job since he's been in there.
Yep, the second Kettlewell has done. He's done a smashing job. I mean, if you look at Stuart Kettlewell, I wasn't impressed about him. I think the best thing about him was he looked like David De Gea, who plays for Man U. But he's come in there and he's definitely got those players playing well, and they seem as if they enjoy playing under him. And like Greg was saying there, he seems to be playing an attractive brand of football for the fans to watch as well. They seem to be turning up the numbers, and Motherwell are a surprise because I wasn't expecting them to beat Hibs, beat Hearts, and then go and beat Livingston the following week. They're really building up strong series of results, and that just shows you sometimes the players just don't play for the manager because Stevie Hamill couldn't get a win. I mean, he could have been there all night. It's like a doctor trying to get blood. You know, you just try to get blood out of stone.
What doctors did you go to?
Not a very good one. But
I hope he's not watching. Dr. Good,
But I think in terms of Stuart Kettlewell, he's come in there and he's had a big impact. You look at Van Veen, he's been absolutely brilliant. I think the big thing for them as well, they've got a second striker because me, you and Graham was on here last season. I was on every week and I says Motherwell's only big option for a goal is Van Veen. So I think the fact they've got the fact they've got Jonathan Abika, then it makes a big difference for them because they've got options here. And I've been really impressed with Max Johnson as well, Graham. I think he's been a really big plus for them.
Stuart Kettlewell said that we're on a good run, but now we go against a difficult team who is fighting for their lives and will be on a high after last week. Meanwhile, Jim Goodwin said that that one last week has gave the team a boost, and we need to kick on now until the end of the season. But that's all right, beating Hibs, Graham, in front of the Sky cameras, but they need to do it every week now till the end of the season.
Yeah, of course they do. And there's still a few games to go, and they're only 2 points behind Ross County. But that was a huge win last week, and they deserved it as well. They were very good. And again, I think one of the massive things for United has probably former Stephen Fletcher. I think Fletcher's been excellent so far. Jamie McGrath stuck his penalty well last week, but they brilliant. I mean, you have to go on a run now. You've got to keep winning games. It's going to be a very hard game tomorrow. I think Motherwell won. Motherwell have been excellent. You talk about Van Veen, and obviously you talk about John Obika. I think Mikel Mandron's been a decent signing for them as well for Motherwell. He has taken a lot of pressure off Van Veen, and you can see that Van Veen looks like he's Johnny Football again. They've got Blair Spittle, who's done decently, and Max Johnson, Alan Johnson's laddie, has been excellent. I think you've got to give massive credit to Stuart Kettlewell. But it's what I said earlier on about the bounce as well. The fact that the same as Aberdeen, these players were an absolute embarrassment under the other two managers, and Motherwell have done exactly the same thing. And now they're playing there for Kettlewell. Kettleball is now in full flow, and they've been outstanding. They could potentially still make the top six. Maybe going to run out of time, I don't know. But tomorrow's a massive, massive game. I think I might be right if they've got Celtic last game before the split.
Yeah,
they might not get top six. But
it's Celtic Park.
Yes.
How many points are they off it? How many points are they?
They are 4 points off Hibs. You're sitting 6 just now.
Oh, because if they win tomorrow and Hibs, who's Hibs got in the last game? Graham, I know I'm making you do some homework, which you're not used to, but who's Hibs got next week?
Are we an
I'm a
away
hard-working
game?
man, you know. Hang on, I'll tell you. Yeah, because Hearts are at home at Ross Kent next week, so we'll be away. I'll tell you. Give me a minute. I wasn't expecting questions.
Put your hand up.
Playing. Hang on, I've got the fixtures up here. They are away to St Johnstone.
That sounds like.
Talking about St Johnstone, they've got a difficult game away at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Was Reagan's pal. In fact, I thought you were going to that game with David Martindale. I thought I gave you a few freebies and pies getting thrown in as well. But that game's tomorrow. David Martindale said that we need to put in a good performance. We've not gigged that in the last two games, and we need to owe it to our fans. This as well. It will be a brilliant. It will be a massive opportunity if we don't. It will be a massive disappointment if we don't make the top six, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, they've just, again, a bit like Queen's Park, they've fallen off a cliff recently. They've been the last two games now, they've been 3-0 down by half-time. I don't know what's happened to them. They've just don't look the same Livingston team that we're used to. You know, They don't seem to have that. They don't seem to have that energy, that fight, that passion that you used to. And again, I have to say about David Martindale as well. Last week, after they got beat, he came out and said, "This was my fault," which is actually very honest for managers to come out and say that. This is a thing that Robbie Neilson didn't used to do. He would never come out to take responsibility. David Martindale has done that. So you've got to give massive respect to him for that. But tomorrow is a massive, massive game, let's be honest. Johnson were very poor against Ross Kent last week. Ross Kent deserved to win that game. I genuinely don't think, and apologies if any Livingston St Johnstone fans are watching this, I don't think tomorrow's going to be a classic. I think it'll be a very poor crowd. I think there's a very good chance this could finish 0-0. I hope it doesn't, but I just think that both teams just now are a little bit up and down. Livingston have to get back to winning ways. You know, they are.
Yep.
And again, the thing is, even though they've been quite poor recently, they've only won, I think, one game in the last 7. They're only a point off top 6. They're only a point off top 6. They're a point behind Hibs. So they could potentially still... Yeah, they could still potentially hit top 6, which is mental, given the fact they've been really poor. But yeah, I did say this. Stop asking me questions. I'll find out. But I did say, I've got it up actually. They play Dundee Utd at Tannadice.
Oh, they can make it. Because I find these kind of times interesting where there's 2 games to go, because it makes a big difference to your season.
So the last game in the Premiership this weekend, Reagan, is involving your team. Celtic, they're away to Kilmarnock at the weekend. Sunday, back to a 12 o'clock kickoff, not 12:30. What's the difference? Half an hour. On Sunday. Let's hear what Andy Postecoglou said before the game. He said it was a positive result last week, but we need to now focus on this weekend's game. It's going to be a tough game because Kilmarnock is fighting for their lives and they're on good form at home, and also maybe a good bonus for Celtic, or maybe not as a Kilmarnock fan you would like to hear, but there's no injuries. There's no new injuries get picked up from Celtic last week against Rangers at Parkhead. Reagan, what do you think of Celtic? Because obviously the last time they went there, I think they won 4-1, was it, early on in the season, back in August? That was ages ago.
I think it was 6-0.
6-0, yeah. Maybe I'm doing a bit.
I remember Jackie Mackey scoring over a kick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So what do you make of the game, Graham? Reagan. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a dodgy game because it's going to be on a dodgy surface.
I think Kilmarnock will fancy their chances simply because Celtic have wrapped up the title, and I think Andrew will ring the changes a little bit. Not that it'll take Kilmarnock lightly, but the fact that he's 12 points ahead, Celtic get a draw, they're still 10 points in front, so I think
Including the goal difference.
aye.
Yeah. So I mean, you could be talking about 13 points if you know, because of the goal difference as well.
Aye, so even the Celtic draw it's virtually 11 points clear. So I think Ange will ring the changes, but I think Celtic will win eventually. But did Ange give an update on Rio Hatate and Abada?
No, it basically said that it was the same injuries from last week, so I take it that they're still out as well. But there's no new injuries as of from last week, so I take it that he was just talking about them.
Yeah.
The same people was out, will be out this week, then the same as last week as well.
I think the interesting dynamic will be who plays in midfield, because me and Graham spoke about it last week. We says that Moy, O'Reilly, McGregor, we got the midfield spot on, Graham. That's how good we are. But I don't know what you guys think, but I thought Moy was terrible last week.
Yeah.
I thought he was so off it. I was disappointed because on Friday, me and Graham were quite positive about the impact that Moy could have, but I did think it was one of his poor games for Celtic.
Yeah, no, obviously I wasn't on last week. I was at the game last Sunday as well, Reagan, and I think that was the most poor game I've seen him playing since he's actually joined Celtic. I don't know about you, Glenn, but I guess it was though he kept passing the ball to a Rangers player all through that game.
It wasn't just him. Carter Vickers done it a few times as well. There was a few Celtic players that did the same thing last week. I thought Celtic were, especially first half, they were very sloppy. Gave the ball away quite a lot. I think they just looked a bit off it last week. Listen, apart from the goals, Kyogo was quite quiet, but that's what Kyogo does. Give him the ball in the box and he scores. But Celtic just looked off it last week. And they still won 3-2. So that's what Celtic, the quality they've got. I did say in the group chat. I did say in the group chat last week. For me, even as a neutral, I think Alistair Johnson has been absolutely superb. I thought he was brilliant last week. He was the best player in the park for me last week. I thought he was brilliant. But Celtic again, Reagan says that Celtic might make a few changes tomorrow. But I've said numerous times, it doesn't matter what changes Celtic make. They've still got a strong squad. Now, you look at last week. There's no doubt they missed Hatate. Hatate's been outstanding this season. But Celtic have that much quality. And I do think, unfortunately for Kilmarnock, I think they'll be probably 3 or 4 on Sunday. I think they'll get beat quite comfortably. Kilmarnock's last game before the split is St Mirren. Again, that's a really tough game. And they're away from home as well. And Kilmarnock's away record is awful. They've not won away all season. So I still think, and I've said this before, I know Kilmarnock beat Hearts a couple of weeks ago. I still think Kilmarnock will be second bottom. I think they'll be in the playoff.
Yep, I think they'll go down.
I just don't think Kilmarnock are good enough. I think Ross County have got enough to keep themselves up. I don't think Kilmarnock do. And I think on Sunday they will be comfortably beaten by Celtic. And it doesn't really matter how well Celtic play. They've got far too much quality. They could afford to even rest Kyogo. And again, I actually quite like that guy, I think he looks a really good player.
He's a big chance as well.
Yeah, he could come in and score a couple of goals. So Celtic bench, we've said numerous times, is just far too strong.
I think the big thing for Kilmarnock is, I don't know if you guys have checked it as well, but the home record is very good. They kind of rely on it. So I think if you had Derek McInnes, you would just be say the players, look, we've made this place a fortress. It's not just about the Kilmarnock pies. So Like, I'm going to say it's going to be. I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1.
As Lino's very confident about St Mirren tomorrow because he said Celtic gave Rangers a good knocking up to soften them up for the sucker punch at Ibrox and St Mirren tomorrow. Telling you, get a quid on the way win tomorrow. Do you know what? It wouldn't even be a surprise if St Mirren did win because they have been very good. I said earlier on, Curtis Main's been outstanding. I like the look of Alec Grieve. I think Alec Gogic does a really good job in that midfield. I would not be surprised if the game that the Rangers could struggle on tomorrow. I really wouldn't.
Well, when you look at Livingston game earlier on in the season, like Livingston was 1-1-0, and then with 50 minutes to go, Rangers equalised, and Livy got a point out of that game. Now, if we were doing that show on the Friday night, what I think we were, then we would have wrote Livingston off, and maybe it's the same way. Maybe it's the same kind of effects that St Mirren's got. Maybe St Mirren would have more of a goal threat tomorrow.
I want to ask you guys a question about this Celtic and Kilmarnock game. In terms of Derek McInnes, then, do you think, as much as Celtic have been good, do you think you'll be saying to the players, look, we've got a very good home record, and the fact that Celtic will be resting a few players, maybe Celtic could be there for the taking?
To be honest, I don't think Postecoglou would allow that from what I've seen so far. I don't think he will want his team to be off it. And he'll know himself that they weren't great against Rangers last week and still won. So I just think Celtic will be, while they might make a few changes, I think Postecoglou will still be very demanding. He comes across as that type of person. So I don't think it will matter. And again, I think the one thing I wanted to ask you guys, because obviously Michael wasn't on last week, and I think me and Reagan mentioned this last week. What did you guys make of the fact that, I know me and Reagan spoke about this last week, but I'll talk about it again. The fact that there was no away fans there last week, did that make a massive difference? And again, after the split, there'll be no Celtic fans at Ibrox. So what do you guys make of the fact that there's no away fans at these games? Because I said to Reagan last week, and I said this to Michael as well, especially for a derby game, I think you need away fans there for that banter and that rivalry.
Yeah.
You just look at that Tavernier free kick, right? That Tavernier free kick was absolutely brilliant, right? The Rangers fans will be in that stadium going absolutely nuts. Celtic Park, they'd be loving it. But now James Tavernier celebrating with just him, and it takes away that moment. Like, I expect Celtic to go to Ibrox in 2 weeks' time and beat them probably 2 or 3-1. But if Callum McGregor or Kyogo scores, nobody's going to be there to enjoy it.
It's the same, Reagan. I don't know if you remember that season when was it 92 or 93 when John Collins scored the free kick, and that was the same again. Glenn, there wasn't any Celtic fans there. Brilliant goal, a bit like when Tavernier scored that free kick, but there was no Celtic fans there.
Michael, I was still I was still no born then, so.
All right, okay, yeah.
I was about to say Reagan was still in nappies, but he wasn't even then.
92. Yeah. I wasn't born for another 6 years.
That's how old I feel. But yeah, I mean, it was weird last week because Tavernier scored it was a brilliant goal. But usually if it was Hearts or Hibs or whatever scored in a goal, Celtic Park, you would have a wee band of the fans off to the left hand side celebrating goal.
To be honest, we don't score goals at Celtic Park and Ibrox. We don't make any difference to us.
No, I meant in the warm up, Grim. I never meant in the game. I meant in the warm up. but no, seriously, like but usually you hear fans going, "Oh yeah, brilliant goal," celebrating and all that, and then they start singing the old tunes and all that. But you didn't get anything like that last week when the big Tav scored the free kick, and I did think it was a perfect time to score, because how many times have you watched a game and the team scores in the last minute of the first half and it gives the team a bounce to come out in the second half and just kick on and win the game, or maybe get a point out of the game. But that wasn't the case last week. But you're right, Graham. It wasn't Celtic's best performance of the season, but I don't think they would mind. I think the bottom line is same with you tomorrow, Graham. I mean, if Hearts doesn't play well, you wouldn't mind if Hearts didn't play well and take 3 points on us. You beat the neighbours across the road, and that was a thing for Celtic last week as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely really intrigued to see how Hearts do tomorrow than Naismith. And I think as well, if you look back at like when we had the COVID games and stuff and there was no fans in the stadium, it was, I mean, for derby games as well, it's weird, like having no fans there. And I know this is a bit different because there was home fans there last week, but during the COVID games and stuff, it was so weird, like seeing empty stadiums for a Celtic Rangers game. And I'm glad that I kind of thought after that finished, it was actually quite nice. But now, obviously, no away fans. And I think as well, Asley knows Fard, loads of comments in here. So super effective for St Mirren. Also, Ryan Strain. Yeah, he's a good player, actually. Charles Dunn and Shaughnessy when he plays. Honestly, think Charles Dunn is underrated. And I know he's a great team guy as well, positive attitude. And I think that's what you want from your team. You want to see, players that have a positive attitude. And I mean, as I said, I've been very impressed by St Mirren this season. I think they've been excellent so far this season. And they could make it very difficult tomorrow. But on terms of the game tonight, I have the Ross County line. So I'm just going to say this the way it's posted here. Laidlaw in goal. Then it's Randall, Baldwin, Watson, Smith, Harmon, Laturi, Kenny, Sims, Murray, Monroe, Purrington, Edwards, Samuel, Dander, so he is back, McPhee, Williamson, and Stones. And I'm just going to try and see if we get the Aberdeen line up here because it should be out now because it's about nearly 1:45. So Aberdeen, their lineup is Roos, McCrory, Scales, Shinnie, Majowski, Duke, Hayes, Pollock, Clarkson, Duncan, and McDonald. And on the bench for Aberdeen, it's Lewis, McKenzie, Markandi, Mislovic, Watkins, Coulson, Richardson, Kennedy, and Babbage. So that's the team news for Ross County against Aberdeen. And let me just see if I can quickly find any team news for the Queen's Park game tonight. Queen's Park.
I know you guys are clued up, so it's the Queen's Park game on the telly.
Yep. Yeah. I've always saying, Graham, that there's there's 2 games on tonight. Reagan, Aberdeen, Ross County, Sky, where you can listen to Chris Boyd, or maybe not, and or you can turn it on to BBC and watch the Queen's game. So it's up to you.
Can I just come in here? Sorry, Red Scotland. You've likely covered this already, Graham, so I'm sorry to repeat. But what's your thoughts on the Hearts job? Who do you fancy? And was Robbie's time up in your opinion? I'll just quickly cover this as well because Red Scotland doesn't be on this. Robbie Neilson going was entirely the right decision. 6 defeats and 7 fans were against him. Players obviously weren't turning up for him. So I think it was the right call. Last week was a disappointing defeat. In terms of who I want as the new manager, I said earlier on that I don't want Stephen Naismith full time, even if he does well, because I think if we get third, I want a manager that can balance European football and domestic football, and I just don't think Naismith has got that experience. So for me, Stephen Naismith, I hope he does well starting tomorrow, but I don't want him as new manager. I've heard a couple of names, foreign managers. I can't actually remember their names. But one of them is called... No, we don't want him. One of them is called...
Come on, the box office.
No, one of them is called Cifuentes. He sounds a decent actually manager. And there's another guy that's managing the Sweden just now who I don't mind. But as I mentioned to the guys earlier on as well, I don't want anyone with an ex-Hearts connection, be it an ex-player or manager, because I just don't want to go down that route again. So I'm hoping for a left field appointment. I don't know who, but I don't want anyone connected to Hearts because we've been down that road before. I think the job at the moment, 7 games to go starting tomorrow. I think Naismith as an interim, I'm happy with that. And I think as I said to the guys earlier on, from what I've heard so far from his press conference, I'm impressed with what I've heard, but it's what he does on the pitch. What about Ronnie Dyler? I know it's left field, but since he left Celtic, he's been quite successful. Again, I mean, it could be a shout. He did well at Celtic, don't get me wrong, but I just think what I really want as a fan. Sorry, Rick, I was going to say what I want as a fan is what Naismith said. I want a guy that's going to play attacking football. I want to see a guy that's going to play winning football, and I want to see a guy that's going to give youth a chance. We've just not had that. Now, again, I think I mentioned this to Michael a few weeks ago. I don't know if this would go against the grain here, but I genuinely believe, and I know I'm going to get slated for this, I genuinely think we've got unfinished business with George Burley. I think Burley was great, and I'd love to see him back. It won't happen, but I'd love to see him back. I really would.
He's not been in management for how long, Graham? Come on.
I love Burley. I love George Burley. Bring him back. Bring Burley back.
Let's move on. Reg Scotland, maybe a wee tip here. If you've missed anything what Graham was saying, and believe you me, Graham has said a lot of interesting things tonight, maybe for the first time on the show, I'm not sure. You can actually go back to the beginning of the show and watch this not live, if that makes sense to you. And you can do that now. In fact, don't do it now. Wait until 7 o'clock, right? Wait until Steve B comes on, but don't tell him I think that. Right? Okay. Reagan, just as well you're on tonight because we're going to change sport. We're going down to Sheffield now for 2 weeks.
I've been there.
Not to watch Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United. Have you actually been to the snooker?
No, I've been in Bob.
I was just going to say, sorry, you know how it's in Sheffield? Is Reagan going to do the full Monty? Because that's where that was filmed in Sheffield.
No full Monty tonight.
Oh, no, please, no. Don't. Yeah, I've got to have my dinner, by the way. Yeah, so... family show and all that. 2 weeks of snooker, lipper, nuts a wee. What? Remember, lots. I don't know why you guess it. Anyway,
I know the words to that. I know the words to that.
Oh, you don't know?
No, I do. I do know the words to that song.
On you go.
Snooker, loopy, nuts are we. Him and them and me. We'll show you what we can do with a load of balls and a snooker cue. Pop the reds then, screw back for the yellow, green, brown, blue, pink and black. Snooker, loopy, nuts are we. We're all snooker, loopy, boom, boom. There you go.
Okay, thanks for that. By the way, Reg Scotland, if you're watching the show back, just fast forward over Graham's bit there. And I take it back what you were saying, Graham, about you speak. This is a week that you speak a lot of sense on the show up until maybe about 7:15, and then you went about looping yourself.
You can tell it's getting late in the day.
A bit like me. Reagan, snooker kicks off tomorrow morning at 10:30 in the morning. Actually,
I'll be up.
2 weeks of snooker back to back, and believe you me, the people in this house love snooker. Apart from me, and I love snooker, but my partner doesn't. But tough. So I put the draw up on the chat. Ronnie O'Sullivan opens the snooker tournament, and you might have to help me with the pronunciations here of the Japan players. Graham, I'll give you a wee shot there.
So Ronnie O'Sullivan is playing Chinese debutant Pang Juxiu Ding Junhu. I think that's how you pronounce it. He won't be watching, so apologies if that's wrong.
Yeah, and I forgot to say to you, Graham, that we've got the rights to do commentary on the snooker tomorrow, so you're on that game up first. I hope. Yeah. So I'm looking at the draw rigging there. Is there anyone? Well, I suppose there's no any game that actually stands out for you, right? But it's good to see the Scottish guys, the Anson and McGill, John Higgins in there as well. By the way, he's due to win in a tournament very soon. He's actually gigging out. Was it not in the semi-finals last year? And Ronnie O'Sullivan beat him.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think in terms of John, he's. I think Graham's just clocked off because I talked about snooker, but yeah, I mean we've knocked Graham off, but no, I think John Higgins will fancy himself to go on and win another world title because the snooker down at Sheffield's an incredible place to go. I've never been to snooker, but I've been to Sheffield.
Looking at all the other games, Mark Wilson against Jimmy Robertson. Anson and McGill is playing Jack Ladowski. I mean, that could be a very good game because Ladowski's been involved in the snooker scene for a few years now. Joe Perry against Sean Murphy. I mean, to be honest with you, right? See the I've read that wrong again, sorry. But Joe Perry there, Mark Allen as well. So there's a few different games on between tomorrow and I think it's Wednesday before they go into the second round. So I'm looking forward to that, Regan. And Regan has good throws as well. So I'm on my own. So anything could happen between now and 7 o'clock. So the snooker kicks off tomorrow at Sheffield between the 15th of April to the 1st of May. The snooker, the World Championships kicks off. And Ronnie O'Sullivan is first up, and as I said earlier on, it's good to see the Scottish contingent, Graham Dott and John Higgins is in, and all the rest of them. So I've guaranteed you snooker get round the TV for the next 2 weeks. So let's move along to I'm on myself. This is quite fun. Anything could happen, you know, that I could say anything and whatever. Oh no, Graham's back. There you go. You okay there, Graham? It's only me and you now. I don't know what happened to Regan. He's probably get kicked off for bad behaviour.
My battery died on my laptop, so I'm having to use my phone now.
Ah, right, okay. Well, we've only got about 9 minutes left, so hopefully it kind of like holds out for then. Anna Lino said, my parents are down that way and usually go and watch the old snooker match and Sheffield is okay. Well, yeah, I mean, what to you, right? If you're going down to the snooker, I would love for you to come on the show and give us a wee update on St Mirren, but also the snooker, because I've heard it's good, Graham, but I've heard it's very expensive to go to snooker.
I mean, I've never been to a snooker game before, but my mum, she loves watching snooker, to be honest. I mean, I would probably love to go to one, but then I kind of think I don't mind playing it. I don't know if I could actually sit and watch it all day. I think I get bored quite easily. But I don't know what you're talking about before it came back on, but Ronnie O'Sullivan's got to be the favourite. You know, he's looking for 8th World Championship title. You've got to think he's probably the favourite. He should start off with a victory. But it's going to be I think it's on to the 1st of May, is it? It's a long competition. So, yeah, I mean, it should be. And I know that John Higgins is back in it as well. So hopefully he can do all right this competition as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Reg Scotland says, I've always loved the snooker, Michael, not as much as during Stephen Hendry days. Graham would love him because he's a Hearts fan, but it's still enjoyable. Yeah, Stephen Hendry was my favourite player as well. And but believe it or not, Graham, right back in the day when he used to get beat, right, I used to go mad because I wanted him to win all the time. Yep. So there you go. That's the snooker. We might talk about the snooker on Sunday when we're on, because it'll be on day in, day out. And it's on BBC and Eurosport as well, so you won't miss any. Somebody hitting the balls. So there you go. Couple minutes left, Glenn. I didn't know this until yesterday when I was doing my research on the show. It's the Grand National this weekend, Glenn. Are you a big betting man?
I used to be. I did win money a long time ago in the Grand National, but that was a long time ago. It's one of these things that horse racing maybe isn't kind of my big thing, but when it comes to the National, I do quite like it. I mean, tomorrow I was looking at kind of the favourites, and I think Noble Yeats, who won it last year, is among the favourites. Any second now, who's finished in the top 3 in the last 2 years, he's got a decent chance. Delta Work and Mr. Incredible as well could be massive there. If I was a betting man, I don't know who money would be on, but I always kind of feel sorry for, like, this is the big moment in these like jockeys' careers. And I always feel sorry for the folk that kind of fall at the first hurdle. You wait all that time to get to the National and you fall at the first hurdle. So it should be interesting. And I know where I used to work, we used to do sweepstakes. I think I won one of them a long time ago. But it's, these are things that are massive amounts of money. The bookies must make an absolute fortune on these things. But it should be an interesting race. As I said, I don't know who I expect to win, but I think you've got to be looking at Noble Yeats, who won it last year. Probably is one of the favourites for this.
5:15, 5 weeks tomorrow night. So just in time after the football. If you're going to the football tomorrow, enjoy the football and then come back in at 5:15. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's good to see the Grand National, but it's actually quite cruel, Glenn, because I'm just looking here that there's 30 fences that the horses has got to go over, and it's a bit of a shame because usually you start off with a minimum of 40 horses, but only half of them or a quarter of them come home because all the rest of them kind of fell on the course, and it's not very nice to see.
No, I mean, it's horrible and it is cruelty, and I think there's a lot of folk, like I know that like they have like ladies' day entry and all that stuff. I think I've been one day out at Musselburgh. Again, I mean, I'm not massively into horse racing. I don't mind it when it's a national, which is fine. But it is a shame when you know all these folk have built up all this time, and it's a massive thing for all these jockeys and that to be in the Grand National and then to obviously fall at the first hurdle. It's horrible, and it's a shame for the horses as well. It's horrible. It's a long race, and I genuinely would love to know, and I don't know if anyone has ever been. I'd love to know how much it costs to actually go to like a day at racing night entry, because it must be an absolute fortune.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've only been to air races years ago, Glenn, but it wasn't a Grand National. It was just a usual Saturday race at air, but I haven't been to a kind of like Grand National. I'm not a big racing fan. I would watch it, but like, nah, I wouldn't go out my way. And fun enough, they were talking about betting in football this week. I don't know if you saw the news today about the trying to ban betting in football as well. But yeah, so a maximum of 40 horses and jockeys will compete 2 laps of the course, covering 4 quarter miles and jumping 30 fences. And of course, obviously the chair will race the gun or whatever they do, but usually it takes about 3 or 4 starts because they don't start it right away.
No, I mean, it's actually, I do quite funny when they do these false starts. It's probably the highlight of my day when that happens. You actually get that, well, that and athletics as well. But yeah, it does make it quite funny. And as I say, I just hope that it's a a decent race. As I say, they do put on a very good show. It is always late in the day, as you said, 5:15. So it's kind of one of these things that folks settle down to. And if your horse is in it and you've got a bet on it, fantastic. But I wouldn't bet on it anymore because I'd be afraid to lose my money on it.
So thanks for all your comments tonight. If you've got a horse on, as they say in Scotland, a GG, and good luck tomorrow. And hopefully yours will come in. My horse is still running from about 5 years ago, actually. It's still running backwards, a bit like me. Thanks for Reagan. Thanks for Grim to joining me tonight. Thanks to all your comments. We'll be back on Sunday at 3 o'clock after the Celtic game. And see you soon.